Mary, do y'all accept tips? Okay, yeah, that's a tip jar right there. It's just pilots. I wasn't sure if they knew that you did. A lot of them flew Tokyo, and that's why they flew it. I'd like to thank the crew and Randy. Randy Ford, the reason we're here is because of Alan Brock and Randy were fraternity brothers at UTA, and that's how we ended up here. And this is just a great, venue for us. Well, if anybody wants to do it, and you mentioned Gray Eagle, you can come over here for a baseball game, and for $10 you get a bus to the game and back. And so that's one of the services that they provide. Thank Judy and Terry and Beverly for manning the front desk there and welcoming everybody in. And Jacques is always here, Bob Lyons, Don Gates, helping me out on all of this. Jay Cooley, where are you at? Come on up here. You got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay.
Well, now a minute and a half. No. Jay is.
Into my time.
Jay is. Are you in charge of the convention?
I'm the local coordinator.
Local coordinator.
Just a reminder about the upcoming 2024 Grapevine Convention / Get Together. The hotel is the Embassy Suites, and you can now make reservations. It's October 31st to the 4th, and preceding that, on the 31st, we're also going to have a little golf tournament. So I have a volunteer sheet for those who would like to help volunteer. We're going to be needing help with hospitality and check-in registration and a few of those things. A few of you have already signed up, and we'll get back to you with details as we get a little further on, a little closer. But also segueing into the golf outing, which is next Tuesday. If there's any of you that still want to join us, there's a sign-up sheet here, and talk to me because we have to get the money in right now. And so there's 2 different clipboards, volunteers for the convention and the golf sheet. And with the golf, I don't know if anybody's been involved over the years with the Pilots for Kids Foundation, but I wanted to introduce Ranger Roberts. He's also a fellow golfer, but he's also involved heavily with the Pilots for Kids. And I have been for years, where we go and visit the hospitals at Christmas time and hand out toys to the kids and so forth. And so they have a charity golf tournament every year, and this year it's next month, May 20th. And I'll let Ranger just introduce that and just tell you a little bit more about Pilots for Kids, if you're not familiar with it. Ranger?
Yeah, just real quickly, Pilots for Kids is a national organization, as Jay mentioned. It's from all types of pilots, military, corporate, commercial, and we have one fundraiser a year. It's been around since 1983. If you have questions about it, it's pilotsforkids.org. You can go on there and look. The only thing we do is it's all volunteers, 100% volunteers. 100% of your donations go towards the kids and the families that are in hospitals during December, that time of year. So we usually visit 4 hospitals. I've been involved with Pilots for Kids since at least 25 years. John Elsey, some of you may know, was the chapter president here, and now he's the national president. The golf tournament is May 20th. It's at Lantana. You can go on site. There's no automatic link to sign up for it. So if you're interested, I'll hang around. Jay Cooley has the information, and Paul Brown is the tournament director at Lantana. You get sign up, pay for it that day when you show up. You get lunch. There are refreshments, adult beverages that are sponsored along the course, and you also get dinner. There's a silent auction. So it's a good time. It's a great cause. If you have any more questions or would like to consider that, be very gracious of you, and I'll hang around after that. So thank you for your time.
I'm not a golfer, but one of my favorite movies is Caddyshack. And my favorite scene is when the Scottish groundskeeper tells Bill Murray he wants him to go out and kill all the gophers. And he goes, won't we get in trouble for that? No, gophers, not golfers. You know. Murray going, go kill all the golfers, you know. Jeff and Jan Linhart, you know, they're in charge of membership. They do a lot for us. You know, it takes a lot of people to make all this work. And how many spouses do we have here? Just with the spouses raise their hands? We really appreciate all of y'all, and that's why we got. I don't know a correlation, cause and effect, but since spouses started attending, our attendance has gone up like over 90. So maybe it's, you know, now they can go. Yeah, this is really interesting. What I started off with this, I said the times they are a-changing, then I announced all the problems and you know happening in the industry. We've seen so many of them. And this is perfect for Dena to get up and talk. And I personally have some guests here. I've got Brian to talk about how this works out. Brian was in elementary school with my daughter. Then I coached his brother in basketball. And then he ended up in Boy Scouts with my son Cameron. And then one night him and his dad called me up and said, hey, can you come over and talk about flying? And so I went over there and told him about it. Next thing you know, he's got hired by who? Spirit. And now you're what? You're furloughed.
September 1st.
September 1st, he's furloughed. How many people in here have been furloughed at American? Look at all the hands, Brian. It's real good for you to get that out of the way at the beginning of your career. There's some other things that have to happen to be a true pilot, but we'll find out. And then Hallie is a flight attendant? Okay. And that's how you found out about this, right? This was on the flight attendant's. I got Greg Williams. Greg, yeah, everybody know Pete. Everybody know Pete Peterson? Legend. Anyway, Pete teaches ATP, CTP over at CAA, and he called me up and he said, this guy, Greg Williams, I trained him, you need to hire him. I said, yes, sir. So here's Greg Williams. He's here. And where is Charlie McDaniels? Charlie, where are you? Okay, anyway, Charlie, there he is right there. That's Charlie. He was in the Air Force, a mechanic, and then he ended up flight attendant for American. And I ran into him at Barnes & Nobles. I don't know how we got around the flying and everything, but he's here now, so got that. Those are the people I brought. How many cadets, how many young people that aren't flying for American are trying to get a job right here? Just stand up. You got 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
Now in the back, we got a whole bunch in the back. Got a whole bunch in the back. And so Dena, this is a good area for you. How many active pilots do we have that are in the Gray Eagles that are here? Okay, we got Pat, we got Chris Torr. Got to mention Chris Torr is APA Vice President, he's here. Pat was the Vice President, he spoke one time. That was one memorable, I remember that, that was good. He's retiring in a couple of months. In a couple of weeks, and aren't you having a retirement party at the, okay, say a little bit about that.
June 15th.
June 15th.
A couple thousand on the bar, buffet on me, and a lot of music.
And you're buying everything.
Almost everything.
Anyway, he'll be retiring.
Charlie.
Yeah.
It's here.
It's here
It's Gilligan.
at Gilligan's. It's here at Gilligan's. Here's a good one. Who's the youngest Gray Eagle in attendance?
You are, dude. Get up.
I don't know. If 68 is young.
Who is it? Scott Francis back there. 51 years old. So anyway, there's just so much we've talked about with all this. It's time for Dena. Dena, let me phone. Dena is the Senior Manager of Pilot Recruiting and Development. You get up here, Dena. And then she brought Eddie Lumpkin with her. He's a Senior Analyst, Pilot Recruiting and Development. And then Christine Crowell, Senior Analyst, Pilot Trend Reporting. So, I mean, I can't think of three better people to keep us advised and let us know what's going on in the industry. So, oh, one other thing. I had Judy Tarver sitting across from you. Talk about legacy. How many people were hired by Judy Tarver?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it's kind of like the torch. It's right here. You know? I mean, and one day they'll say that about Dena and all of you. But anyway, here's Dena.
Time I just have a mic in my hand like this and want to sing, but I won't do that today. Thank you. Because you've heard me sing. And I'm going to use the mic only because normally my mouth is big enough, but it's got to carry all the way back there today. So I'm actually going to use the mic. Again, my name is Dena Payne. I want to thank the Great Eagles, Bob, Alan, and Charlie for inviting me out here to speak to you guys. I definitely want to do a shout out to Judy as well. I do hope that one day I'll have as many hands up for me. It's because of you, right? Setting the stage and the legacy for me to be here. And Charlie has already introduced Eddie and Christina from my team, so we'll be here to answer some questions. I did some slides to kind of talk about some things that's happening in our pilot hiring and hopefully facilitate some questions that I can answer. Let me see if my mouse is going to work today. There we go. All right. It went to sleep on me. So this is a little bit about me. Kind of how I got started at American Airlines. I'm getting used to saying how long I've been there, but I started as a flight attendant at JFK, which I still think is the best space in the system, even though I've been here in Dallas for quite a while. I did a lot of different positions in flight service and as a flight attendant, and then I went into communication, which was my initial major, and worked in flight service communications, airport service communications, and flight communications. So I worked with three of the major, actually four of the major groups of American Airlines: pilots, flight attendants, agents, and fleet service clerks. And then I went into the flight department. I've been there since 2009, and working with pilots exclusively since 2009. In 2013, I was tapped to be an angel. I got to work with Terry Randolph and Renee Hill, and we were the orientation angels. And so now we're fallen angels, but they're still doing the new hire orientation. I've been in pilot hiring since 2001. 2021, and in this role for, is it 3 weeks now? I don't know, short time. And so that's a little bit about me and then how I got into this role. So what I'm going to provide is just some hopefully pretty graphs and numbers, because I do know that pilots like pretty pictures and numbers. So I'm going to provide that for you. So we're going to have numbers from kind of how we got here, and then I'll have some brief numbers for 2024. But our pilot hiring in 2020, so we were planning on hiring about 1,000 pilots in 2020. March 20th, happened. And so our last class was March 17th in 2020. At that point, we had hired a little over 350 pilots. We opened up the window again to start hiring in October of 21. We hired 583 pilots with a team of 4 in 3 months. All right. I like to tell people that was the longest decade of my career. All right. I think we're still feeling the effects of that, but here we are. In 2020, we hired a little over 1,850. That was unheard of at the time. And then last year, we hired 2,161. That's 2,161 pilots that we hired last year. All right. So that's what that looks like. When you look at the graph, you have selection and flow. So selection is those pilots that came in through the interview process that me and my team handled. And flow, of course, is part of the flow agreement that we have with our holding. Our pilot hiring outlook, this is what it looks like. So for the longest, these were all 2s. All right. This year, we are planning on hiring about 1,300 is the number that's out there now. So it's gone down, but there's still, as I like to say, a comma in that number. So it's 1,000 pilots we're still planning on hiring this year. where the outlook, the forecast right now is that we'll go up to, back up to 2,000 for 2025, barring any other changes in aviation, right? All of you have been in the aviation field for quite a while, or you're coming into the aviation field, and you'll learn the things that you need to know as being a part of this world. And the only thing constant in aviation is change, okay? And so that's why I'm gonna do a lot of caveats with, this is the number today. American is still hiring more pilots, I think, than any other major carrier or any airline out there right now, because we have mandatory retirement outlook. So this is a graph that I took from our online website, which is AA Pilot, so that's where our active pilots go to get information. It's a lot more interactive on that site, so they can do fun things like put in their own date of retirement, and it does some magical stuff and tells them what they want. But this is kind of the outlook. So just looking at this, by 2035, so in 11 years, we'll be at 50% of our current pilots will be no longer on our campus due to the mandatory retirement, okay? Now, if there's a change, then we'll remodel this. For those of you that are at American or have been at American for a while, retired from American, you know we kind of pad our numbers anyway. So while we're looking at this includes our mandatory retirements, but we always add just a little padding in there in anticipation for those pilots that don't want to wait for 65 to retire. All right, so we're in a good spot on who we hired and where we're going. So if you look at this, these are age distribution among our new hire pilots. So the average age of the pilots that we hired in 2023 was 39. So far in 2024, we're still looking at it being around 39. Right, that's the average age. It goes up, it goes down, but the average age is 39. With that, you can see they'll have a nice long career here at American Airlines if they're retiring at 65. This is our pilot candidate pipeline. So these are how many people that we invited to interview, and these are how many we hired. So you can see that we put out quite a number of invites, and then this is how many we actually hired to come on our campus. So hopefully you can see by these numbers that American is very selective about the pilots that we hire for our airline. And then this is our chart for how many we've hired in 2023. So last year, these are just kind of where they came from in 2023, that 2161. This was our selection process. And so far, we had a class just this morning. So these are brand new numbers hot off the press, that we have 529 new pilots that we've added to our flight decks as of today. So we have classes on Wednesday. You can kind of see from here our average flight hours and our average time that they come here with. So I know there's a lot of rumors out there on the hours that we're looking for and how many hours that they have. You'll be hard pressed. I'm going to say that you won't see us publish what our actual numbers are, okay? When we put out information, you have to answer the qualifying questions to be able to create an application on AA Pilots. On pilots.aa.com, you have to be able to answer those qualifying questions. And then from there, you know, that's the minimum, but we don't hire the minimum. So we won't tell you what those actual numbers are, but hopefully this gives you an idea of what the range is. These are average. This is just recently. So these are our hiring events. So almost every month, it seems like this year, but I think it's like nine events that we're doing this year. And these are the hiring events, how many we hired from that event. From NGPA, we gave out 29 CJOs. NGPA is the National Gay Pilots Association, Women in Aviation, WAI. TPNX is the pilot network. That's the one that we just came back from. So I think we just posted on LinkedIn how many we hired there. Hopefully you can see those numbers. It was a clean sweep. We interviewed 24, we gave out 24 job offers. All of them have a military background because that's kind of the focus of TPNX. And then these are our upcoming events where our hiring team is expected to be at. So we'll be at PAPA, which is the Asian Pilot Association. We'll be at OBAT, which focuses on the Organization of Black Pilots. LPA is our Latin pilots, and RTAG again is the military, so it's Rotary to Airline Group. And so those are kind of the focus on those at those conventions. So these are career expectations for our new hire pilots. I am sure that some of you are looking at this time frame from any base, then to upgrade and all of that with amazement, because that was not your journey at all. All right? But right now, new hire pilots can get any base they want within 6 months. And I'm going to give you a shocker here. In our last 2 new hire classes, Chicago was offered in a new hire class. So we have new hires going to Chicago. I think that's crazy. I never thought I'd see that. But yeah, they're going to Chicago right out of base. If they don't get it right out of base, then in 6 months, they could be where they want to be. Right? So whether that's through the mutual base exchange or them putting in their own vacancy bids, they can be where they want to. And as you know, that can change your lifestyle, right? When you don't have to commute. I hated commuting. Narrow body captains in less than 2 years. So pilots that we hired in 2022 are now getting captain awards on the narrow body. So they're looking at that in less than 2 years, wide body first officer in less than 2 years, and a wide body captain in 10 to 15 years. So the movement for new hires here, especially when you look at that age I showed you earlier at 39, is massive, right? So they can be enjoying that left seat for quite a while they're here. So how do you become a competitive applicant? I typically start conversations when I'm doing meet and greets on, hey, I like to not have this information out there in the public when I'm giving out information, but this is one where I tell people you can take a picture, you can put it on a t-shirt, you can put it on your LinkedIn or any other social media that you're on. The other slides, we kind of keep those close to vest. I mean, it's not secret, but we don't want it out there because information changes. I don't want things to come back to me like, hey, Dena, you said this. I'm like, well, that was 2 months ago. All right. Again, the only thing constant in aviation is change. So these are the common traits of a competitive American Airlines pilot applicant. So these are the common traits, competitive, right? And so while this is a competitive applicant, hopefully you remember a slide a few slides ago that we hire highly competitive applicants, all right? So I'm going to touch on a few of these. One is an application is complete and up to date. When we say complete and up to date, that is looking at your application and making sure there's no errors. Anytime there's a question that needs to be asked on your application, that gives the recruiters pause, and then we'll just go to the next person that we don't have questions to answer. So before I came here, I looked to see how many applications we have on file. We have over 14,000 applications on file. Out of those 14,000 applications, there are about 4,500 that are active applications, all right? So there are a lot of applications on file that our recruiters go through, they look at that. So again, anytime there's a question that they have to ask or something like, hey, I wonder, they'll just go to the next person that they don't have to spend all that time on. So making sure your application, your name is spelled correctly. And there's simple things, all right, that cause them to go on to someone else. Gaps of employment, make sure that all of your years are accounted for, that you've been in aviation. So there's no gaps of employment that aren't explained. If you were unemployed, then put unemployed. If you were backpacking through Europe, then hey, I was out backpacking through Europe, right? Give us what those stints of employment are, make sure that they're correct. Let me see, make sure, you'll be surprised how often people misspell captain and first officer, all right? So things like that. That comes from my communication days, so I just get my red pen and mark it up, all right? I don't take points off, but I do mark it up. So quality letters of recommendation, I'm gonna touch on that. Quality is underlined for a reason. A quality letter of recommendation should come from someone that knows you either from the aviation field or your character, so they know you personally, right? So quality letter of recommendation looks something like, hey, I've met Sarah. I know Sarah as this type of aviator, right? I've flown with her this amount of time, she's safe, this is how she reacts in an emergency situation. A quality letter of recommendation is not, I know Jamal, he seems pretty cool, he's on this flight, you need to hire a pilot, you should hire him. Right? That's not a quality letter of recommendation. All right? We get that a lot. I love it when I hear those laughs because we do get those a lot. But I look at a quality letter of recommendation as I'm putting the full weight of my reputation and character behind that letter. Even if you have retired from American, someone there knows you, right? And so we're looking at you doing the same thing, putting the full weight of your reputation and character behind that person. We frequently get questions about why don't we do like a golden ticket, right? I have this person, my son really wants to be with American Airlines. Why can't you do this golden ticket? This would be the one person I need in. We're real proponents of, we're hoping that you've met a lot of great people from American Airlines, right? You used to be a pilot for American, you're currently a pilot. These are the people that you want in our flight deck. Why should you be limited to just one? All right, so that's why we allow you to do multiple letters of recommendation instead of this kind of one shot. Here's my golden ticket, that's the only person you get, right? What if you have a son and a daughter? Who do you pick? Your favorite? All right? And it should be your daughter, by the way. All right, your questionnaire is accurately marked. So one of the things we see commonly is in the area of training failures. So if you have a training failure or a check ride failure, what we're seeing is that those aren't being annotated on applications. If they are noted on the application, they're not noted correctly. So you don't give us a date, right, of when that occurred, what happened. It's not that you had a training failure. I'm sure if you had a moment to talk to the pilots in this room, they can tell you they had a training failure, right? But what they can also tell you is what happened, when it happened. Some of them can tell you what the day was like and what the aircraft was like, who their instructor was. So when a pilot comes up and they forgot, right, their check ride failure, that's kind of a red flag for us. How could you forget that when, again, I know we can talk to many of you in this room, pick someone out and they can say, yep, this is what it was, this is what happened. It's not that it happened, it's what did you learn from it, all right? So we need to know those. These are, your application is a legal document to American Airlines. So we require all of that information to be in there. We're gonna find out about it, right? Whether it's when we look at your logbook or when we get your training records, we're gonna find out about it. And telling us about it up front is much better than us finding out about it, right? So for those of you who think about interactions with your parents, all right? When you were younger, or if you're still at home or living with your parents, what those interactions were like when you told them ahead of time about something versus when they found out about it, all right? That's what it is with us as well. It's the same. Don't let us find out about it. And we're gonna find out, and then it's gonna open up all these questions when it was something probably very, very simple that could have just been glossed over, looked over. Okay, it's common, but the fact that you didn't tell us about it now raises all these red flags. Why didn't they tell us? What else aren't they telling us about? All right? So the questionnaire is accurately marked is huge. And being honest and transparent is better than not. So we do get questions, I'm gonna harp on this just for a second. We get questions frequently, especially from military people. They're like, hey, I'm doing my application and I had a couple of stage checks. Do those really count? Not really, but you putting those on your application again shows this transparency and honest. I'm giving you everything, right? I'm not gonna make the decision as an applicant on what's important to you as the employer. I'm gonna give you everything and then you're gonna say, okay, we don't need that, we don't need that, okay? So it's the transparency and honesty of it all. What's another one? Turbine PIC is highly valued but not required. Again, hopefully you saw the previous slide of the average turbine PIC that comes over to American Airlines. Another frequent question that I think we get is it important to get the type, the aircraft type, or the turbine PIC? At American Airlines, it would be more important for us to have the turbine PIC time. We're gonna train you to our aircraft, all right? We have the, and I'm not just bragging because I'm with American, but we do have a top-notch training program, right? You pilots have been through that and you know they're fabulous. Their goal is to help you succeed and they're gonna train you on the aircraft we have. So having that turbine PIC is more valuable because you're becoming captains in 2 years, okay? So unlike some of you in this room, we may have had 15, 20 years to groom you and love you and mold you to who we want you to be. We don't have that anymore, right? I think we'll get back to maybe about 5 years, but right now we don't have that time. So these are the things that we're looking for in a competitive applicant. Anything above that makes you highly competitive, all right? And that's what we hire, our highly competitive candidates. So how does this process start? If you don't already have an application on file or you want to talk to somebody about it, You're gonna create an application at pilots.a.com. There's an S on there. So pilots.a.com. You're gonna complete an online skills test. That's your PST. All right, some of you did in the room with the rudder and the wheel. Now it's all online, right? 2000s, all online. So they do that online. Everything, as you can imagine, has a score, right? So then they complete their work traits assessment. So once they complete their online skills test, they're contacted by a recruiter. The recruiter, if they're looking at their application, would then send them a link or ask them to complete the work traits assessment. The work traits assessment means you're going through the process. So this is like the next stage in that process to get an on-site interview. You're gonna get a work traits assessment, you're gonna complete that out. That's kind of like a behavioral test. There's no right or wrong answer. It's, do you fit with the culture of American Airlines, right? And then after that, if you're, again, moving through the interview process, you complete an admin. So the admin is a Zoom interview. It's a virtual interview with our HR personnel and flight staff. It is an interview. So I'm going to stress that all the communication that goes out to applicants says that it's an interview. Even though it's virtual, it's still an interview. So you should be dressed appropriately like you're at an interview. Not taking it in your car while you're mowing your lawn, not at the airport with everything in the background. It's a real interview, so it's part of your interview process. After all that's done, then you can be called in to have your in-person interview at American Airlines. So that will be at our Flight Academy. We're still in the same location. So the Flight Academy, and if all the stars align and everything goes okay, then after your one-on-one with our pilot interviewers, you could be given a conditional job offer at that time. Okay? So that's kind of like the process on getting a job offer at American Airlines. All right. And then after this one, I'll open it up before I go to like another section. So common questions. You might be tired of hearing me talk right now, but these are the common questions that I get. I might have answered some already. So, how do we look through those applications? I already mentioned that we have 14,000 applications on file, all right? So we physically can't go through all of those. So the computer system does what a computer system does, what a database does. It spits out whatever we put in, right? So it just helps us filter through those 14,000 applications that are on file and the 4,000 active applications, right? So it just spits out what we put in. But it is a person that goes in and looks at each and every application, and is a person that determines whether or not you're gonna be called in for an interview, right? So it is a person that does that. So as you can imagine, with all of those applications, we don't have the bandwidth, even if we had a team the size of this room, to go through all of those applications. So again, if they don't have questions to answer when they're going through that, then that makes it easier for that recruiter to reach out to you. Take quality letters of recommendation very seriously. So those quality letters of recommendation are the most effective way to move somebody up in that stack. All right. The modifications. So the question before there was, why do they have to take these modifications? Does it matter? Yes. There's been some testing that goes on, and our active American Airlines pilots have participated in that. And what it does, it helps us to gauge how they will perform in training, how well they will perform in training, and how well they will assimilate with the culture at American Airlines. So they've been both scientifically tested and line tested, and they have established to be pretty accurate. Now, not doing well on those assessments doesn't mean that you won't get an interview and or a job offer. All right, it just helps us to figure out where you're going to fit within that whole mold of everything. We have a group of pilots that help us at events that are hosted by the organization. So I showed you the conferences that we plan on going to. When we go to those, we take pilots with us. So they conduct meet and greets. So meet and greets is kind of like speed dating. They sit at a table taller than this, but they sit at a table, and it's one pilot and one interviewer. And one pilot and one meet and greet. So that meet and greet could be an interviewer, or they could just be one of our active line pilots. And they go in and they look at their resume. Right? They don't have access to their application, just their resume. And they go through that resume and they give feedback. Right? So this is feedback from people in the spot that you want to be in if you're applying for American Airlines, right? And so they go through that and give you tips. This is what we need to see on your resume. This is the pathway that maybe you should be taking to get to American Airlines. type of experience we're looking for. At conferences, we typically do interviews. American Airlines is one of the few. We were the only for a while, right? But we can only be, the only for so long for other people try to like ride our coattails. So there are other airlines now that do on-site interviews. At our last conference, we were the only ones that were doing interviews on site. But we are still the one that have the most amount of CGOs that we typically offer at conferences. So if the hiring team is there, then we will more than likely be doing interviews. So there's a chance for someone to come in for a meet and greet and be pulled to do an interview. Should all the stars align again, they can walk away with a conditional job offer. Okay? And all they did was come there for a meet and greet. But even going to a meet and greet, you need to have an application on file. I'm gonna look at here because these look like all potentials. You need to have an application on file. If you don't have an application on file, there's nothing we can do with you. All right, remember, this is your legal document test, and how are we gonna interview you or know who you are or your qualifications, anything, if you don't have an application on file. Pilot interviewers. So our pilot interview process is conducted by active American Airlines pilots. They are recommended by their chief pilot, and their chief pilot have to give them a quality letter of recommendation, right? That means they have to go in and get to know their chief pilot. I know for some of you, I said the word chief pilot and I saw you visibly twitch, okay? It's a different environment now at American Airlines. We encourage them to go and talk to their chief pilot. They don't bite much, but they should go in there. But the only way they can be recommended to be one of our interviewers is to get that quality letter from their chief pilot. From there, we go through that list. And just like we do for applicants, right, to join American Airlines in our flight deck, we do the same thing. We look at all of their credentials, we look at that letter of recommendation. The ones that are chosen have to go through an extensive training process. That training includes legal, HR, interview skills, all of that. That pilot interviewer also has to take the assessments. Right, so they have to go through we make them go through the entire process that a candidate would go through so that they know when that candidate is sitting across from them what they had to do to get to that seat in front of them. Okay. Let me see, what's the last one? Letters of recommendation. So if for our internal pilots, so if you're an active pilot with American Airlines, you can do your letter of recommendations through Comply 365. If you are retired or not with American Airlines, you'd have to give your letter currently to the applicant and they can attach it to their profile, right? So they have the ability to upload documents into their application and they can take that recommendation and put it in their application. Letters of recommendation are reviewed as part of the application process, right? So hence the quality letters of recommendation very seriously. All right, I think that might be all about that. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cadet Academy, but before I get there, do I have time for questions? Okay. Before then, I'm gonna ask if there are any questions. Dang it! All right, I'm ready. Already, yes, sir.
You didn't mention anything about the medical requirements or testing in the interviewing process.
So we don't have that. All right. So almost everything we do ahead of time, they're required to have a valid first-class medical. But there's no on-site testing for medical or anything like that. Unless are you talking about the drug testing? Drug and alcohol testing? Is that what you're talking about?
Basically, the astronaut testing that we went through and we hired. I mean, American Airlines invests a lot in every single pilot. You look at, the cost of medical for a career. So it behooves them to have a medically fit candidate.
Yeah, we just go by valid first-class medical. Yep.
When you said failures, is that oral and flight?
Yes.
Oral and flight.
So the question was about failures. What should I disclose? That will be oral and flight. Yes. All failures. I like to say if it's in your logbook, right, it should be on your application. And we do require physical logbooks for the interview process. So we take it very seriously. I think we have the most stringent logbook requirement and criteria out there in the industry for a reason. But we require them to come in with their physical logbooks. So if you have gone digital, it depends on how long your flying career is, right? So there's a time for some of these young bucks where it's all digital. right? And if it's all digital, then we'll address that accordingly. But if you have any part of your aviation career where things were not digital, we require a physical logbook. We don't care how beat up it is, how torn it is, we need the physical logbooks. We have trained reviewers on staff, and they go through those logbooks with a fine-tooth comb, right? And that's part of the interview process. One question I get frequently is, what can I do as a pilot to not get a job? When I have an interview, don't bring your logbooks, right? That's a surefire way for you to walk away without a job offer, right? You need to have your logbooks. We will not give you a job offer without seeing your logbooks. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What about flow for candidates? Is their criteria different, or how do y'all work that?
So it's all contractual. So they come through the flow process. There's a whole list of contractual stuff that they need to do for that. So it's a certain amount of pilots that we get through that agreement, and they have to follow whatever rules are in that contractual agreement. But they do have to complete an application as part of that flow process. Yes, sir.
What were the canceled classes this year due to? I know you guys didn't.
So a lot of things. It starts with, if you remember a slide a while ago, I had 2,000, we were supposed to hire 2,000 pilots. And I started that with, we always kind of pad those numbers. We hired 2161. So being gangbusters, we already went over the amount that we were supposed to hire. And we have to put those people in a class, right? So one is putting those people in a class. Two, Boeing, right? And the delay of aircraft delivery. And just a general slowdown. But we just hired more pilots than we were supposed to, and we have to get those people in the class. We typically have about 2 months out of a year that we don't have classes. And so that's normally December and a summer session. We just added a few more this year to kind of catch up with that, because what we were doing is those people were just sitting around. And while that might be good news for the pilot, all right, because you get paid from day one, that's not quite good news for the company for you to just be sitting out there for a few months and we're not getting any use for you, right? So we have to catch up with our training. So nothing nefarious, just we were just too good. Yes?
The average was like 3,000 for the last couple of years, 2,000 hours. Military guys, it takes them like 20 years to get that many. But do you have a number for the military guys?
So I don't have a number, but we do have conversions depending on the type of aircraft they're on, right? So military is a little bit different, and I know the conversion, but again, it depends on different aircraft. So, but we do count in their turbine PIC. When we do that conversion, that's in there. So their numbers will be a little bit different, right? But that's just our average. But yes, there is a conversion for military, because it will take them a while. But some of them are retiring, so they have that, a lot of those hours that we need. All right. All right. So then I will touch on the Cadet Academy. I'm going to say touch on because one of the things I normally include in these presentations is financials. Our financials are going to change tomorrow. Our State of the Airline is tomorrow, so you can look at the news or your Google alerts and see what the new numbers are. It didn't make sense to bring those in because they're going to change. Also for the Cadet Academy, there's some exciting changes coming to our Cadet Academy. I'm not at liberty to give you any of that information except for exciting changes. When those contracts, because I don't want to mess up any contracts that are in the works. All right, so when those contracts are signed, the ink is blowed off and it's dry. All that will be posted online and it'll be on the Cadet Academy website. I'm sure we'll have press releases everywhere, but it should be some exciting times. For now, here's some information about the Cadet Academy. The mission of the Cadet Academy is to provide a pathway to the flight deck. We have 7 training locations. We partner right now for financing through the American Airlines Credit Union. The price just went up, so I think I updated that on the slide yesterday. No payments up to 45 months on those loans. Most importantly, they get American Airlines pilot mentors. So our active pilots, we encourage them to be mentors for our cadet academies. We also encourage them to participate in the pilot hiring process. There's plenty of opportunities for them to be involved on shaping the future of American Airlines and our flight deck. If you're an active employee, you get a leave of absence. In fact, one person on our team just went into the Cadet Academy, so she started her leave of absence. We have another person on our team that is taking flight lessons, and so I don't know when she's going to leave us, but probably sometime soon. And then they get a guaranteed placement with one of our wholly owned, so Piedmont PSA Envoy. This is the flight path for them, right? So, and all of this information, if you want to look at it, is in deep detail on the Cadet Academy website. You're welcome to take pictures, but all of this is public, and they do a much better job of probably explaining this than I will. But this is kind of this is the pathway that they take. These logos on here are the 7 schools that we have our training at. There's a time building that they'll have at Envoy, PSA, and Piedmont in the cadet program. And then they can either flow through our wholly owns to American Airlines. So that's kind of the pathway for them in that program. Here's the cost of those schools as of today. I say as of today because I think there's rumors that some of these costs will go up like everything else, right? Why not? Most people are surprised that, oh yeah, there already is a change. Seems like San Diego went up. Infinity used to be about 97, I think, and that price went up. But the loan that they can get from the credit union is $126,000. Yeah, and that's through our credit union. They can get a loan through somebody else. All right. There's nothing stopping them from going through somewhere else. But if they want to go through the Cadet Academy, we partner with the credit union, and they can get that loan through there. If they are, they can sign for it themselves. So that's a little bit different than some other loans. It's a little scary to think of an 18-year-old taking out a $128,000 loan. But I guess it's no different than going to law school or medical school or anything like that, right? And they have to sign those loans too. So there's some great, the interest rate is 0.25%. And again, they don't have to pay it until they're actually working as a first officer. So the Cadet Academy, the recruiters for the Cadet Academy work very closely with those candidates that they're taking on into the program. There's extensive interview process, just like what we do. They have to take assessments. Their mentors and the recruiters really follow up with them to make sure this is a career path that this person wants to take. There's a lot of money and time involved in that. So they're working with them. They have milestone moments along the way to make sure this is what they want. Here's the path to get there, right? Before they get to a point of no return and have to pay back all this money. They also get bonuses when they go to our wholly owns, and great mentors tell them to use that bonus on their student loans instead of going out buying motorcycles, cars, tattoos, whatever they spend money on. All right? Put your money on your student loan. It's not going to get forgiven. Put your money on your student loan. Cadet Academy. So this is where we are today. And I say today, I think I updated this probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. So this is where we were 3 or 4 weeks ago, right? So this is how many cadets are enrolled. Again, the number of applications on file. I didn't look at it before I came here, but there's a comment in it. So there's a lot of candidates, but these are how many are actually enrolled in the program. Our focus, of course, is to target those people that may not have known that flying could be a career for them. So as you can see from here, it's a 54% diverse population there. 31% is female, 35% are persons of color. And here the cadet eligibility, right? Out of these, we have 11 of them that are current American Airlines pilots. And these are the airlines that they're with, the other ones that have gone through the program. The first 2 applicants in the Cadet Academy started the program in 2016. They started that program then. One, this was their first career. The other one was starting their second career in life. They're both American Airlines pilots now. They were hired in, was November 22? November 22. And we're looking forward to having one of them join our interview team. So the path wasn't that long for them to get from 0, both of them had 0 hours, to now be here at American Airlines. And now a captain. Crazy. So, yes?
When they complete the Cadet Academy program, how many hours do they have to have before they can anticipate a job with an airline?
So 1,500 hours is what, 1,500 hours is what the program takes them to, from 0 to 1,500 hours, right? As you can see, again, while they're still with the Cadet Academy, right when they come out, they're not ready for American Airlines yet. They still need to get some time, so that's why we have them go to our Holy Hounds. So there's not a specific time frame that they're ready for that, or again, hours that we're gonna publish. But when they first come out of the Cadet Academy, they're not quite ready for American yet. But once they spend some time at our Holy Hounds, and they season them up a little bit more, and then either they come through the flow program, or they apply, and if they're a highly competitive applicant, then they can get hired outside the flow. So here's some QR codes. So I know you're probably out there, you're talking to people about like, hey, what can I do to get someone into American Airlines? Captain Corey Glenn was the director in this department, and he did a couple of 3 podcasts. And he comes to it from a pilot perspective, right? So he'll answer some of these questions on how to deal with failures, how to polish up your application, how to dress appropriately for your interview. And he just recently did one where in GPA, again, talking about the evolution of pilot hiring. And he did some math, all right, because that's just how his brain works. And with the old contract, not the new, but with the old contract, with a 25-year career, after doing all the math, with just 73 hours a month, calculated that this is a $14 million career. So taking that into account, again, that's why we're very stringent on some things. I'm gonna go back to our logbook, because we'll have people come in with flash drives, or hey, I can email it to you. No, you need to bring all that with us, with you. You need to print out your logbook. If it's digital, you need to have it signed, right? We've had some people like, oh, well, I just couldn't get to the store and all of that. Did you not see $14 million career? And you couldn't spend $25 at FedEx to print out your logbook? All right? And dressing appropriately. And that dressing appropriately is coming in interview attire. So what we're looking for when we say someone come in dressed appropriately, what are you gonna look like in your uniform? So what you should look like is kind of what you look like in your uniform while you're on probation. Because we know once you're on probation, you do whatever you want to. But what are you gonna look like when you're on probation, all nice and put together, right? And again, we'll have people, candidates that will come in that just, they don't take it probably as seriously as they should, right? So we're not just hiring aviators because it's where they want to be. We have a vested interest in the success of the people that we hire. We travel on American Airlines, so we hire the safest aviators. And you're retired from American Airlines. We plan on retiring from American Airlines. We want our retirement and pension checks, all right? So we need it to be a successful company at the end of the day. I think that might be my last slide. Perfect. This is like our contact information and how to apply. That's the application website. It's at pilots.aa.com. That's the Cadet Academy website. So you can go there and get information. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the term probation. How long are they on probation?
Oh, I'm trying to think of that, and I should know it off the top of my head. Oh, Terry, how long are they on probation? 12 months? 12 weeks. Thank you. No, month, Terry. Oh, we're not missing the edit. I know, you're retired. I'm looking at Terry because she's one of our angels, and I've been out of the angel world for a while, but I think it's 12 months, 1 year, or some hours and some number of training events. But their employment starts on day 1. I'm not sure if that's what it always was, but employment starts on day 1. Their pay, benefits, and employment seniority starts on day 1. Yes, ma'am.
From the newsletter, it started out kind of in a negative tone that their other airlines were not hiring or cutting back or furloughing. But we're not doing that.
We're not in that. Now we slowed down, right? So we were planning on 2,000, and we're now at 1,300. So we're still hiring a lot of pilots, because I'm sure back in the day, even the number 1,000 was kind of unheard of. So we're still hiring over 1,000 pilots. But yes, everyone's slowed down a little bit. A lot of it is because of issues that's happening with our aircraft deliveries in Boeing, right? And then just the normal downturn. I like to say what goes up must come down. right? That 2,000 was just crazy numbers, and I think it was just all from COVID. Again, aircraft deliveries, retirements. So other airlines have different reasons on why they're cutting back. I know it's affecting some people that have already gotten furlough notifications, but American is not in that spot. And barring any national or international event, we're not gonna be in that spot. So there's no meetings, no discussions on what we're gonna do if, right? The only way something will happen is another COVID or something else that's something outside of our control. But I am, without even seeing the numbers tomorrow, I'm sure we're gonna have great financials for tomorrow. And showing how we're paying off our debt. Americans doing a very good job of paying off that debt. We got our aircraft when interest rates were low, right? Kind of like our houses, so you got it low, great. For those of you trying to buy a house right now, I'm sorry. And it is what it is. But we bought ours when we got all of our aircraft at a low interest rate. So again, this is our contact information. To contact us, our pilot.recruitment@a.com is a group mailbox. So when you send something there, we all have access to that. And then if you have questions about the Cadet Academy, the cadetacademy@a.com. All right, so what other questions can I answer? Yes?
Yeah,
Lou, yes, sir.
On the loans that they take out for it, is it a block type loan? I mean, just they take out one loan?
No, it's issued like a traditional student loan. So they give it to you in increments when you hit certain milestones. So just like when you go to school and they give you a portion and pay it off, then it's the same thing. So they pay the training center.
If they decide it's not for them anymore, they're not out for $100,000.
Correct, unless they decide it's not for them when they've already gone through everything. There's still a lot of money and it's interest rates with student loan interest rate, not regular interest rates. Yes, sir.
Does the hiring process give any emphasis to college graduates? And how does that balance with somebody that goes through the cadet program with no college degree?
Okay, so the question, if you didn't hear it, was does the hiring process, make sure I do it correctly, give any points or credit to college graduates, and how does that work with the Cadet Academy? So you're not required to have a higher degree as to apply to be a pilot, so that's no longer a requirement. When you go through onboarding, our onboarding team will ask for some type of documentation, but it's not a part of the application process. Of course, as you can imagine, having a degree will make you highly competitive. They're not, right? So the more that you have, the more competitive you become. The cadet program, now, is considered, and I'm gonna have Christina make sure that I'm saying the right words, is it considered part of, do they get a degree at the end of that?
At Spartan. they
At
get an
Spartan, okay.
associate's.
So at Spartan, they get an associate degree, right? But it's just, it will be in place of their college, right? It's a full-time program. So when an employee wants to go into that, the reason why they can get a leave is because it's full-time. So it's not designed to be a part-time program. So you probably saw the age in there. People were like 25 is the average age. That's the average age because people with least life experiences have least responsibilities, right? Those cadets that we hired from the beginning of the program, one of them, again, this was their second career in life, so they were older. As we get more life experiences, we have more responsibilities. So it's designed to be full-time. If you have a family, you have bills, you have a life, you have to kind of arrange that to see, is this the program for you so that you can commit to it full-time. But for college credits, just Spartan is the only one that gets an associate degree at the end of that. I saw another hand, you sir?
Yes, what would be the minimum hours required to submit an application? Should you already have your 1,500 as an ATP before you apply? Or?
Yes, I can answer those hours. So the pre-qualified questions are a unrestricted ATP. So you have to have an unrestricted ATP. You have to have a first-class medical, valid first-class medical. The right to work in the United States, unrestricted, right? So you're able to come and go. You have to be at least 23 years old, right? So those are the questions you need to have a positive to yes in order to create an application. If you don't meet those, then you can't even create an application, right? But if you can answer at least those questions, and I think there might be one more I might have missed, but if you can answer those questions, then you can go in and you can create an application and you can submit it. All right? I'm looking over there because you all look like you're ready to get started. So you can submit that. Now, again, if you don't meet our minimum thresholds when you create that application, then you're not coming up in any of these reports. We're probably not we're looking at your application, but there's nothing we can do for you yet. A way to be seen if you're not hitting those minimums is to go to these conferences. All right, so that's a chance to be seen. That's, again, a chance for someone to look at your application. If our recruiting team is there, they can look at your application. If it's our meet and greet team, then they're looking at your resume and they're giving you some tips on how to navigate that, what's the best path to get to American Airlines if you're not quite ready for us yet. So they can help with that path on how to get there even if you're not ready quite at our threshold. But if you are a seasoned aviator, put in your application. I just told you we're not going to tell you what our minimums are, right? What we're hiring to. So if you don't know, don't get back into that bucket of, I'm just going to give them what they know, what I think they need instead of what they need. Let us determine what we need. Put it all in there, because you never know. And again, if you go to a conference, we don't know who you are if you don't have an application on file. And there's a lot that goes into that application, so sometimes candidates are like, I could just do it when I get to the conference. You have to sit and work on that application, so it's not something you can do in the spur of a moment. Right? Because we'll look at it and we're like, well, there's so much stuff missing and things are going really fast at a conference. And we're like, again, there's too much stuff missing, so we're just going to have to move on to the next person until you get this ready. Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, you got me confused a little bit. You complete the cadet program, then you go with the regional carrier. After you're with them for a period of time, you're hired by American Airlines. At that time, you have a year of probation, and if so, how much are they paid that year?
So it starts with the Cadet Academy. So the first thing you do is the Cadet Academy. So that's this program here, and then the Cadet program is with the wholly owned. After that, yes, they come to American and they're on probation. They're paid day one, training pay. So it's a monthly line value of whatever their fleet and base, whatever they're making at that, they do an average of that, and that's what they're getting paid. So they get paid training pay, not probationary pay, and they get paid starting from day one. Thank you. Yes?
Yeah, on the Cadet Academy, can they come in with prior certificates or experience?
Yes and no. So it depends on what they have, on whether the cadet, they might be too far along to be in the Cadet Academy.
What is too
So
far along?
how far is it there?
Anything over instrument.
Anything over instrument, in case you didn't hear it. So anything over instrument,
Okay,
right? The Cadet Academy just wouldn't be for you. You're too far along.
okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, do you have any statistics on the wholly owned pilots, how many have gone hired outside of the floor?
So far this year it's been 15. Right, so we're in, what month is this? April? So in April, we've hired 15 outside of the flow. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You've done a very thorough job of briefing us on everything.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. No, thank you. Okay, in case you didn't hear that, he said I did the most fantabulous job of briefing you guys. And that my tip jar be up here for you to drop some in. Oh, that's what I heard. I'm sorry, that's what I heard. No, thank you. But the tip jar will be up here. Okay, so if there's no more questions, Eddie and Christina and I will be hanging out here, so if you want to talk to us, feel free. We do have another meeting to get to at our headquarters, so we won't be able to stay too long. As you can imagine, we have to be back there by 2 o'clock. So we only have about 15 more minutes here, but we're happy to talk to anybody if you need us to. And thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate that.
Jock, you said we have, what are those? Newsletters from last year?
Take some home, take them home.
Okay. Alan, where's Alan in there? Alan, we got Steve Browning is the treasurer right now at Gray Eagles. He's looking to retire. So he needs somebody to step up, and we'll send some stuff out. So anybody's interested in being treasurer of the Gray Eagles, you got it. The visitation for Mark Mata is April 30th, 5 to 8 p.m. at Blue Bonnet Funeral Home. That's on the Facebook too. You can get information off of that. And then, Pat, what is your deal again? It's June 15th. Go ahead, come up here. Just come up here for a minute, just a sec.
Captain Patrick O'Rourke, Airbus, DFW, former negotiator for APA for a couple of years and vice president for 3 years during the pandemic. Anyway, happy to be here and nice to see a lot of familiar faces. Anyway, I retire, my fitting flight's on 26 May, but the important thing is the party, which is going to be here. Right on this stage here, we got live music. It's going to be 15 June, and that's a Saturday, 6 to 10. 6 to 7, there'll be a complimentary buffet. Randy said he cut me a good deal. And let's see, and I'm gonna probably, it's like anybody know what a wedding down is? There's probably a couple military guys in here. It's like a wedding down on steroids. We'll put a couple thousand on the bar. It's kind of the opposite of a wedding down, really, because you're supposed to put like half of your pay raise. I'm getting a big pay cut, but I'm putting, a couple grand on the bar. Live music. I used to, every once in a while, get invited to play. I'm a guitar player. That's a hobby. Definitely, it's not recommended. It's very, no health insurance or anything. Anyway, live music from 7 to 10. We'll probably have, if you can afford it, a $5 cover just for, there's 5 people in the band. 2 or 3 of them don't care about money. The other 2 are like, how are we getting paid? I'm like, I'll make sure you get paid somehow. But anyway, if we're short there, I'll just pay them. They're pretty cheap anyway, cheap labor. 15 June, it'll be a good time. You'll hear some good music, rock and roll. There's a little bit of country in there, but mostly rock and roll, 70s and 80s stuff. By the looks of you, most of you might like that. Please come. All Gray Eagles are invited, and your friends too.
Will there be an airline employee discount? All right.
What more do you want?
Just real quick, did you guys like the grilled chicken? We have a choice between grilled chicken we had today, fajita steak, which is chicken flour tortillas. That's $14. And then the other one is hamburgers, chicken strips, grilled chicken sandwich, Irish nachos, and potatoes. Just a quick vote. You guys want hamburgers and chicken strips or fajita next time? Okay, it's fajita. Fajita. Another thing, we've got surviving spouse checklist. We have that up here. It's on the APA website if anybody wants that. Name tags, I was treated with a lot more respect once I had my name tag. People knew my name, I don't know why. And that's it. We're going to give everybody a chance to come down here and talk to the team. Thank you for coming.